Hey, Kermit the Frog here, and you are listening to Manny on UFO Buster Radio Network. Yay! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 375 of the UFO Buster Radio News Report. And yesterday we did not have an episode, and that was because all hell broke loose in Texas. And there was one point where some of the local cities were reporting grapefruit-sized hail. There is no damn way that I or anyone should even think about surviving that kind of stuff. Could you imagine? Like the news reports were saying, you should freaking go out and get helmets and put them on if you go outside. That is plain freaking crazy as hell. But that's what was happening in the San Antonio area, actually. So it was supposed to be happening today too, but for some reason it went east. So we lucked out. We have an episode today. So I'm combining yesterday's episode together with today's. So we're going to start off with a special guest today, and then we'll get into the news reports. But let's welcome Mr. Ionia, who I met through Discord. Welcome to the show.
Hi, yeah, thanks a lot for having me.
So actually, like I said, I met you through Discord, and you had a really fascinating story that when I read it, and then I went over to your YouTube channel, I was like, man, this is something that the folks really should listen to because it happened to you at the age of 15.
Yeah, it was back in 2006, and I guess I spent a lot of time just really reflecting on it and just trying to figure out what the heck I experienced.
Right.
And yeah, it happened in phases, I guess through the last almost 12 years now, but yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, and it's fascinating too that when I read your story, it has like so many different elements in it, and the age also plays a factor because usually when someone is an experiencer at a young age, it carries with you that experience and it changed your life, doesn't it?
Yeah, we were just talking, but really, there was no going back. That was like. I remember thinking at the time, almost like setting almost like a quest of sorts, where like I need to figure out what this is, what happened, and I need to figure out how this really can relate to other things and like my other interests. And I was always kind of interested in, and I get a lot of this from my father, about like ETs, UFOs, just like consciousness in general, meditation, spirituality, things like that. Kind of just trickled down, I guess, just from him raising me. So it's kind of just like this eureka moment for me, and still learning, still figuring things out. So
the best thing about your story is that there was someone that kind of like a witness experienced it with you. So let's take it from the beginning and let us know how did this all start.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, like I mentioned, it was back in 2006, and this was October Oh, I can't remember the exact date offhand. It was either the 19th or the 20th. So October, let's just say October 20th, 2006. So I had Aaron over. We were both guitar players. So we were pretty much rehearsing for a gig that we had in a couple weeks at our local high school. So we're practicing probably about 20, 30 minutes, an hour maybe. Mm-hmm. And the power goes out. So we're like, okay, can't really play electric guitar with no power. Well, you can still play, but it just won't sound good.
Right.
So we're pretty, we're kind of getting bored. So we start walking around the neighborhood. So the neighborhood I lived in had two beaches. So there you have like the West Beach, and then you had like the East Beach, and it was connected to this pond called Long Pond. So we wanted to see, how bad is this outage? I'm like, the moment we walked outside, it was like pretty windy, probably just a tree hit a line or something like that. So we walk over to the, it would be the East Beach, and we see over the pond that, there's still lights across the pond. It's quite a ways distance. They're like, okay, so it's not a super major power outage. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking right when we were at that beach, had this there's like a weird atmosphere in the air. And I've explained this to some people and they really have no idea what I'm talking about, but it's almost like a charge, like static electricity. Some people like have sensitivities to different types of weather and things like that.
Right.
But it was almost as if the air felt heavy and not like a humid kind of way, just almost like a static electricity is the best way I can describe it.
Kind of like a tingly, heavy feeling, kind of.
Yeah, that's actually. Yeah, exactly. So when we're at the East Beach here, so it's about 5 o'clock or so. We're just walking around the neighborhood. It starts getting a little darker. And I think there was people out. We heard like kids, playing outside and things like that, and we're just right. Like hiding in bushes, like shrieking, trying to mess with them. We're teenagers, like doing stupid things. Mm-hmm. So, and now it's probably around 7:30 or so, and it's pretty much complete darkness. The power is still out. So in this neighborhood, there wasn't really any streetlights or anything like that. It's a pretty relatively rural neighborhood, so it's very, very dark. So right around this time, we approach the West Beach, and we're going down the street, and up, further down the street, like coming towards us, is we see this headlight, or what we thought was a headlight at the time, and I didn't really remember thinking much of it, and I don't think Aaron did either. We just kind of like moved into the West Beach. Like there's the way the beach is laid out, there's like a pathway, trees, and there's just like overhang and a couple steps, and then you're actually on the sand and on the beach. So we're just walking down this path towards the beach, and we see this approaching headlight, and I'm thinking it's somebody on a bike, somebody like on a motorcycle, except I'll just refer to it as an entity because it wasn't somebody on a bike or a vehicle at all. They kept pacing back and forward on the street before the beach. This is only 200, 300 feet away. And since it's so dark, I couldn't really make out any major details. I know that there's a headlight at the front. I knew it looked like a figure, like a man on a bike, except the weirdest part about it, couldn't hear anything at all. No bike chain, no sound, nothing. It was so odd because it was so mechanical the way that this thing was, almost like a drone. And that light on the front was very, very fluorescent blue. So this was 2006. LEDs were around at 2006, but they weren't as popular as they are today.
So this was actually on this figure?
It was attached to what appeared to be like a bike.
Okay.
So it's like at the front. Um, and the weird part about it was that this light stayed 180 degrees. It didn't bump up, didn't bump down, didn't fluctuate at all. And this like entity is going, left and right, up, just right in front of the beach where we are, just back and forth, back and forth. And at the time, I'm thinking like, is this a cop? Like, what the hell is going on? Like, is this like some creep like stalking two 15-year-old kids? Like, what the hell is going on? Like I said, it really did appear like it was almost like a man, but no movement at all. Like if you could picture somebody on a bike, but they're not moving their arms, they're not moving their legs. It's just like the bite's almost like hovering. That's what it appeared to be. So that's happening for, I really don't even know how long. Could have been 10, 20, 30 minutes. Both Aaron and I don't really have that much recollection of the time. But at some point I remember thinking like, it's like been quite a while, and like this person's still going up and down the street here. And almost instantly when I had that thought, they made like the last turn and continued going up, away from the beach, up the street, back to where they came from. And me, just being me, I was really curious. I'm like, what's going on here? Who is this? Like, who is just like stalking these kids? So I said, Aaron, like, come on, we'll just follow right behind them.
Now this is like a relatively small town, right? Yeah,
then the town's pretty small, and the neighborhood, it's like it's a community. So there's probably I don't know, 10 to 12 streets that kind of connect, and they're decently length. It probably, like, if you were to do like a circle around the whole neighborhood, it'd probably be about a half mile or so.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of small.
Half mile, 3/4.
Yeah, everybody's kind of familiar with each other in the area.
Yeah.
Because I know if that happened here in San Antonio, peace. Yeah, he can go.
Yeah, no, nothing like that.
Right.
And yeah, there was nobody else. There was nobody else at the time. So we're trailing behind this entity, probably about 200 feet behind it. And I noticed Aaron was not, was lagging behind me. It's like when you're walking with somebody and you could just tell that, they're not with you anymore. So I turn around and I see Erin about, 6 feet behind me, and she's looking up right at the sky. I'm like, what the hell? And obviously I look where she's looking, and that's when, we saw this essentially half the sky and almost like a cloud shape was flashing multiple colors, like, red, green, blue, yellow, pretty much the whole light spectrum. And I remember the last flash was like a fluorescent green, like no thunder, no sound, nothing, just the colors. And it was very, very bright, like it reflected off of the pond. And at that instant, like, me and Aaron looked at each other and we just bolted instantly into sprint. It's probably like that's probably the most fight or flight response I've ever had in my entire life. No thoughts, just ran. No idea what happened to the entity. Didn't, there's a point where there was a cross, so it could have went left or right. Thought wasn't even in my head. So we get about 300 feet down the road, 400 feet down the road, where out of breath, we're just swearing our asses off, like, what the fuck did we see? Like, what the hell was this thing? Like, holy shit. And I'm just, after probably about 30 seconds of that, I'm just like, we got to go back. Like, what the heck? What the heck was that? He's like, Aaron's like, it was still flashing when we were running. I was like, yeah, we got to go back. We need to go back. And so I just start walking. Aaron's like, no, we're not going. I'm like, no, we need to go. Like, we need to figure out what this is. So I start walking.
Aaron's like, no, I'm getting the heck up out of here.
Yeah, which probably a normal person would say, let's get out of here. But it was just one of those things. I don't even remember like thinking that. Just felt like I was just kind of, acting on my own. Most definitely the adrenaline. So then I hear Aaron start coming up behind me. Then we run back to the beach. We go right up to the beach, like right on that ledge before those steps into the sand, and I get a very good look at this occurrence, and the same thing happened again. But this time I got a much better look at it. So like I said, it took up about like almost half of the sky, and it seemed to be like encased in a cloud. Like there was a light source somewhere in this cloud that was emitting all this light, and it was, dispersing through the cloud and, getting further, it dissipated. You could kind of see the textures, or I guess you could more say like the saturation of color based on where the light was coming from the cloud. Mm-hmm. Again, the full spectrum, red, yellow, blue, green. I think even went like white as well. What color am I missing here? Orange, purple. And it like pretty much pulsing is the best description I can say about it. Yeah, just crazy pulsing. Pretty quick too. It wouldn't stay on one color for more than half a second or so. So
the whole time, so you guys are just standing there just looking at it.
Yeah.
Does Aaron say anything to you while you're like standing there looking at it, seeing all these colors?
I remember, so that was the second series of flashes, and I remember saying just like, what, like, how is this? I think we said like, how is this happening? Or like, what is this? But we were just so in awe. We really were just taking in the experience. Mm-hmm. So it stops, and this as it started to, I guess, as it went through the colors of like pulsating. And I can't really say if there's a certain pattern of colors. I don't really know. Maybe there was. I wish I had that information. That'd probably be pretty good. But towards the end of that second series of flashes, it seemed to be less bright. So we wait about 10 more minutes, probably 5 to 10 minutes, and it happens again. This time it was the dimmest. And you could tell because, like I was talking about the saturation earlier, you could see like it was almost as if that light source was not emitting as much power. So you weren't seeing the light as much in the cloud. It was like not breaching out as much, just wasn't as bright. So the last series of flashes ends. We wait, about 10 more minutes, nothing. 15 more minutes, nothing. 20 minutes, still nothing. So I say, well, okay, let's go back to my parents' house. We'll get the camera. If it does happen again, we'll have the camera and we'll catch it on film. So we run back to the house. Power's still out. My parents have candles lit, and Aaron and I are talking like crazy. So who knows if my parents believed them or not? Well, believed us or not. Right. So we get the camera, we go back to the beach. So when we go back to the beach, I don't directly remember this, but Erin does. She says that there was multiple people, like 6 to 8 people on this beach that essentially all scattered right when we got there. And we weren't being stealthy at all. We're we're talking with louder voices, like the adrenaline's still pumping. Mm-hmm. I don't remember people on the beach actually scattering, but I do remember 2 people that passed us right when he got there. It was a man and a woman, a few years older than me, maybe 18, 20. And the woman had like it was like a picnic basket or something like that. And I didn't really get a good look at their face or anything. But yeah, they just left right when we got there. So definitely 2 people. There could have been 6 to 8 there. I don't know. Just very odd how if there was that many people, they all left at the same time.
Yeah, so, well, I could imagine you guys being so young. You guys were like invincible at this point, right?
Yeah. It's weird because it's hard to really remember just like what my thought process was, just because really it was such a unique experience, and I've never really experienced anything like that before. And the adrenaline was it just kept on going.
Right. So you see these folks and they scatter. So what happens next?
So then we're just filming pretty much the night sky. Just have the camera on roll, and I'm sure probably at least some people listening have tried to film something in the dead of night. Very difficult, especially with a camera from 2006. So we're trying like the night vision, this not really, having the best success at even like trying to focus on like a cell phone tower like way across the pond. So I'm filming, and then all of a sudden we see this giant fireball emerge over the horizon of the pond, over the tree line. And we have the camera rolling, and we can't even see it being picked up on the camera, so we didn't even think we got it. But yeah, a huge fireball, and there's been actually many sightings of like similar fireballs in the similar area. Just generally, like the Bridgewater Triangle is known for like these big red fireball sightings. It was like almost like a diamond shape, and it started off very dim, grew very bright, very bright, very bright, then super bright, like almost, I wouldn't say abnormally bright, but just it would catch your attention.
Yeah, no kidding. And at this point, you guys are still like, okay, let's continue to videotape this.
Yeah, we were filming the whole time.
Yeah, I'd drop the camera. I'd run back home. I'd be done.
It's tough. Once you get a taste, you're never satisfied with anything else. So the experiences only come ever so often.
Right.
Well, what I've come to find anyway. But I didn't know that back then. We were just like, I don't know, we were just there. I got lucky, I suppose. And then it just pretty much fades into absolutely nothing. The whole thing, like from dim to brightest and then going back to dim, 7 seconds. And then it happens again, exactly 3 minutes later, except it's in a different area. And we have this cell phone tower that's blinking as reference. So it's probably about the second time. It's probably about 200 feet closer to the... that's a rough estimate. Maybe 200 to 500 feet closer to that cell phone tower.
Mm-hmm.
And same exact thing. Just very dim, then gets very, very, very bright, then back to complete dimness in 7 seconds. And that's pretty much what we experienced that night. And I just kind of was... We kept it filming, 20 more minutes passed, nothing. 30 more minutes passed, nothing. And we pretty much called it quits after about 30 minutes or so, 40 minutes after that last fireball. Then we kind of just went home, and I think I told my parents, and they probably thought we were crazy. But yeah, that's about it.
So did you ever hear about any more incidents or anybody else experiencing the same thing that night?
No. So it's a pretty big pond. It's probably one of the biggest in Massachusetts. I definitely know it's in the top 5. So, potentially there could have been a lot of people that witnessed it. But I have not heard or read any story of anyone who has. And like I mentioned, I kind of like set a major goal to kind of figure out like what was this. And originally I thought it was extraterrestrial. I was pretty like, oh, that's it's ETs, yeah, that's it, okay. I don't know, something weird, UFO lights, but as I kind of got older and started thinking more about what happened and how just odd it was, I started thinking maybe this is some type of technology that it's either secret, classified, who knows, some military test that they were testing. What better place to test in a small area where the power's out? I would say most individuals don't really even care about experiences like this or even believe them. But at the same time, there are a lot of people who do care and do really kind of believe them. But as I kind of learned a bit more about physics and kind of just, I guess, just progressed as a person, I discovered the work of Nikola Tesla. And, Tesla is, more famous now than what he's ever been. And he was pretty famous when he first pioneered and came to America, and even his work he did in various provinces across Europe. But once I discovered Tesla, like I knew about him, but I never really like read his work and his publications and like what his idea of physics was, how it was very different than our current understanding. And I said, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then I found out Tesla was able to manipulate almost like plasma balls in experiment settings. So pretty much maintain. He described them almost like footballs. You can like toss them around. It was plasma. You can like touch it and things like that. All similar to like those globes that you touch.
Yes.
And they, something similar to that, but almost more physical. So he was able to manipulate those in laboratory settings. Except he was too smart for his own good. Except he would never. He would only prove it in practice. He wouldn't actually, showcase, or I guess he wouldn't publish how he was able to do these things. And then I found out how Tesla was pretty much the pioneer to neon lights. And I started to kind of slowly weaving two things together, thinking, all right, you have these plasma fireballs. You have this crazy light phenomena that's like, no sound at all. That's the weirdest part about it. There was no sound, no thunder, just pulsating light. And I'm thinking, that's kind of odd. Okay, let's not, I want to try to link everything together. Now, the only thing I really can't link is the entity on that vehicle or bike. I don't necessarily know where that fits in. I don't really know what the hell that thing was.
Right.
But it does appear that Tesla was able to do things in physics that either would most definitely censored, but to what extent? Like, how much was he actually able to manipulate electricity? So after I was reading some of his work, and I read some of the work that Tesla didn't work with too many individuals, because he primarily wanted to work alone, but he did work with people throughout his career. And one of them described how he was able to manipulate lightning to the point where you could actually make it multiple colors. And then I said, "Oh, okay, maybe those two things are actually those fireballs and this light phenomena, or this lightning phenomena, are one and the same."
Yeah, it's very interesting. But what caught my eye in your story was the shape of the, I guess for lack of a better word, unidentified flying object that was next to the cell tower, because you described it as being diamond-shaped.
Yeah. The brightest, when it was the brightest, you could actually really see, I wouldn't say texture, but you could see the shape more clearly. It was almost I'm not going to say fractal, but I'll say it almost like reflected light within itself in that orangey hue. So there was like layers of this orange as it got brighter, and yeah, very very much like a diamond.
Yeah, and it's funny too because it kind of reminds me of the Cash Landrum case, where they also had like a diamond-shaped UFO, which of course we know you sent out a bunch of radiation and got everyone all messed up, especially the witnesses. But it also irradiated like that, kind of like that reddish color. So that was fascinating to me that you had that same kind of description.
Yeah, like a red-orange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've thought too, like maybe Erin and I were exposed to something. Radiation could, you could just list off anything really. I don't really think so, because I feel fine, but at the same time, who knows? Could be something that's latent. And I think when Tesla was out west, when he was doing all those crazy experiments, because he just pretty much took all his money and bought a lab and just did whatever he wanted for a while. People of the area, I think. Oh, I'm sorry. It's either when he was out west or in New York. I can't remember which one this experience was, but essentially he did this very, I think it was high frequency or just very high voltage experiment with lightning, and it was described that people like had almost like a glow to them, almost like a presence, almost like a really like a luminous sheen to them. So I don't really know the credibility of that story. It's just a story. I don't know if that actually happened, but rumored is he was able to do things of that nature, where he was able to do these experiments and they might be able to influence people some way or another.
Yeah, and so we were talking earlier, and so Aaron didn't want to be part of this particular interview, but from the moment that it happened, did you guys ever discuss it or shared your experience of what was going on, from age 15 and up?
Oh, yeah, always. More so as we got older, more so on my end, because I was always, we would, go on like car rides as we got older and stuff, just like, just talking about like, what the heck was this, blah, blah. But I would, as we got older, like maybe earlier 20s, maybe even like mid 20s, I would kind of be bringing it up more, just because it's still like, it's still fresh in my head, like it just happened.
Right.
But yeah, we talked, and I've kind of really, there was a point, really a couple of years ago, where I was just really dropping the story to any chance I got, just to kind of, as some people, it was kind of like a shock value, and I could actually gauge, you can kind of just see what people, if they're interested in things like this, even if they even care. And it's always fun for me as a person just to kind of relate, find people who I can relate to, I can like talk to openly about this stuff, because you can't really do that in public most of the time.
No, you can't.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, people look at you a little funny. But here's a question, because the first thing that came to my mind, and I see that someone in the live chat is also asking the same question, but I was waiting for you to get to the story. But some people in live chat, they're in a rush. So me as a parent, if my kid came home and said I saw a lot of pretty colors in the sky, I'd be like, I pat them down, go to their room, search everything. Did your parents have any kind of the same reaction, looking for stuff?
No, and I didn't mention, but yeah, there was no drugs, no alcohol, nothing like that. So on my fam, like we're over my house, so I don't know if Aaron told their parents, but my dad was always really open about the UFO ET phenomena in itself. I do believe he's had experiences as well. He hasn't really communicated those with me to like in detail, but at his inclination. So I'm not sure if he believed me at the time. He's, as I've talked to him, like, later, actually, it's probably 6 or 7 months ago, this came up, and he said, I believed you. I said, oh, really? Okay. But no, they didn't like search us for drugs or anything like that. No, like pat downs. It was kind of just.
They didn't pull out a peacup.
Yeah. No, nothing like that. No. Yeah, that kind of would have wrecked the experience a little bit. But,
I know.
Yeah, we weren't. We were met with like, are you, kind of joking around like we're tripping or something like that. But
now the video, you said you caught some of this on video. Is that still around today?
Yeah, I do have it. I have it on DVD, so I haven't uploaded it to my YouTube yet, and I've kind of just been waiting. It's been actually for years now. It's been a prized possession, this one DVD. So I kind of just keep it in the cupboard and just kind of wait to unveil it. And I just haven't felt the right moment to kind of put it out just yet. But it's essentially exactly what I described, but probably less exciting because it's a shitty 2006 camera. But,
right.
Yeah.
We know how that goes. You'll never have the right equipment when something like that happens.
Yeah, it's funny, and the audio, and like when I play it back, it's like, wow, it's like my voice was that high pitched, but we didn't even think we got it. We didn't even think we were picking it up. We couldn't see it on the display screen of the camera. We didn't even think we got anything, but yeah, we actually did.
So 2006, you're teenage kid, drug free, and you had this crazy experience, but then something else happened to you, like later on, you had a different kind of experience.
Yeah, so this was last August, and we were talking about the Greys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is really quick, so I kind of mention it like how my father has had experiences in his past. Like, he grew up pretty much during like the big space race. And he was always interested in space and UFOs and things like that. And, come to find out, my brother also has had a lot of experiences, actually different experiences, but I would probably say more. But this one, for me, I was in my bed, and like I said, last August, and I'm just lying down, and I kind of get this. It's almost like I wouldn't say a presence, but it's almost like some type of pressure, or almost like a charge, and I kind of see my. And my eyes are closed, and I'm starting to see an image, and it starts to come in more and more detail. And first came like the actual image, and what it was is I'm lying on pretty much like a metallic table, and at the foot of this table are 3 little Greys, and they all have their heads tilted. Exactly like how you ever see like a puppy or a dog, and they you say their name and they tilt their head the exact same way, almost the exact same expression. Like, they're curious, they're intrigued, they were definitely conscious, and as I'm staring at them, and I'm looking, my head's up, I'm starting to get more details, or more sensation. I'm starting to feel this cold metallic table. I'm starting to feel this thin sheet that's over me, white sheet. And the Greys started looking a little more, even more real than what they did before. And at that point, I kind of snapped myself out of it, and I got out of it, and I was still in my room, but I kind of attribute that to a flashback experience. That was an experience I was currently having, but that was kind of residual of something that happened to me in the past.
So you think maybe it could have been sleep paralysis?
No, because I could move. So usually with sleep paralysis is pretty interesting. So in psychology, they kind of just toss it off as, it's just something that happens sometimes with the bodies, and there's weird hallucinations associated with them. But they don't really explain, or they don't really consider how you can train your body to induce sleep paralysis. And there's a lot of odd physical sensations that come with inducing sleep paralysis, and what you can do with it. So I just generally what sleep paralysis is, I think, is very much simplified to what is actually happening, or what may be happening. But it wasn't like that. I usually don't get sleep paralysis like that. I've tried inducing it. Actually, it was around last year. I was kind of practicing this, inducing it myself, and I was still not able to get fully, completely paralyzed like some people describe. But it wasn't directly like that.
So that was your last experience. Anything else since then, basically? Any other experiences? Any weird colors in the skies? Anything happening in the area? Well, actually, you've moved from the area since the first
I moved
incident.
about 12 miles or so up the highway. Yeah, maybe about 15. Yeah. But I live in a city now, so it's very, very different. I think there's I think the term is ley lines. So it does seem that there are. It does seem that there are. I don't necessarily like the word, but hot spots to certain activity. It does seem to be that does seem to happen. Whether it be that area or whether it be something else, I don't really know.
Right.
But I'm trying to think. Last summer too, I was experimenting with some CE5. I don't know if you're familiar with that. With so pioneered by Dr. Greer himself.
Mm-hmm.
So
one of our least favorite people.
I have there's a problem with a lot of the famous people in ufology, and they just end up getting super corrupt, and it just turns into a money game. Greer spews, you can communicate with UFOs, and I say from meditation, I say, okay, well, I'm not going to pay you $5,000 to go on your course to do that. I'm going to do it myself. So I'm a habitual meditator myself. So one day I went to the beach here. I live on the coast of Massachusetts, and I went to the beach and I said, okay, let's give this a shot. And essentially all you need to do is focus your attention and get into that mindfulness state where you're just really in the moment. You're really focused, but at the same time you're very open. Which, if you just practice meditation, it's just another, just a routine thing. So, and really not even 10 to 15 seconds after I do this, and I kind of had some, I had almost I had intent. I had intent just as a hello. I see an orb flash right up, and it starts traveling. And I'm just holy shit, okay. And then it's traveling, and then it fades into a dimmer light, still traveling, and then just gone. Said, oh, shit, okay. So I wait a little bit, and I give it a whirl, and same thing. And
that's too intense for me. I don't think I can do any of that. I can't even stay still that long. That would drive me insane.
Practice. It's all practice. Yeah. That's really it.
I got a question for you while it was in here. It was regarding when you had the experience on the beach. Mm-hmm. And so the question is, after the experience on the beach and, the air being heavy, kind of electrified, was there a difference in the growth of your fingernails or toenails?
So I have no idea. There could have been, but that wasn't something I was.
You weren't looking out for
paying attention to. Yeah. I don't after that day in October. I don't remember feeling any physically different, but I felt way different psychologically. Just because I'm something's not right. Somebody's lying about something. I don't know who. It could be government, it could be military, certain branches of science. I don't know. I just, after that experience, is somebody's being lied to here. There's things that happened that people have said shouldn't be happening. So why did it actually happen, I guess?
Yeah, you always have those whys, right? You try to figure that out, do some research. Apparently the question has to do with there are people in the past who have encountered this heavy air during experiences, and they've had a fast growth of nails.
Huh. Rapid? I'm just curious if it went from normal nails to werewolf nails and
probably not werewolf nails, but I'm sure that you probably clip them every 2 weeks and now it's every day. I don't know, something like that. I don't know. You scrape on the floor or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't recall. I don't recall anything like that.
Yeah, it's funny. Just looking through the questions here.
Yeah.
This is crazy. So now you're going to be you're at a place where you're trying to figure out some more stuff, trying to figure out what's the future going to be like. So are you now a researcher / believer where you're out looking for answers about everything?
So my main research interest, I just actually got I almost have my master's. I just need to defend my thesis, but my coursework is all finished. So my main avenue of research really, or my passion for research, is consciousness and its applications to physics and how that relates to the UFO ET phenomena. So it's, from my interpretation, our physics are not right. So that's probably the biggest explanation of how these crafts can fly the way they do, how they can do the things they do. And potentially too, you can extend it to these extraterrestrials, how they're able to manipulate time, memory, consciousness, all these crazy things. And I think one of the biggest things that's overlooked is everybody's thinking this phenomena is physical. They're thinking it's a physical craft, a physical biological being, when in fact it may not even be like that at all. It might be a type of almost like ESP, which would be like psi, is what they define it in parapsychology. Mm-hmm. So a type of technology and or communication that's way more sophisticated than any way we communicate by, right. On this planet. So that's where I guess my main idea is. But I don't know. It's my goal is the same, but academia is very tough to pursue anything like this. Like, it took them decades just to do research on meditation. So how long is it going to take till they actually do adequate research on UFOs? I don't know.
You definitely are going to be out on the fringe of things, at least for a good while.
Yeah.
But you'll get in there, I'm sure, eventually. I want to thank you for coming on to the show. I do have in the description the link to your YouTube channel where you actually do talk about the Gray experience.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me. This, like I said, this is really never really been on a podcast before, but I'm an open book. If anybody has any questions, just comment on YouTube or send me a DM on YouTube, and I'll be more than happy to answer.
Yeah, and he's also on Discord, by the way. So if you guys are in the Discord, you can find him on Discord. What's your
so it's Trimag on
Trimag.
Discord. I know, kind of confusing, two names, but
yeah.
So it's TRIMAG. Yeah.
So I thank you so much for joining. I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to let you go back to some research and try to figure out what the hell happened to you.
Still trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Exactly. But we're going to play a couple tracks here, and then we'll be right back after that to talk about some of the UFO news.
Hey, Kermit the Frog here, and you are listening to Manny on UFO Buster Radio Network. Yay!
Again, 'cause I can't stars. I'll brush you off just like the dust upon my shoulder. I have a hunch of who you are. Believe it or not, I got the strength to blow you over. I'm a hurricane, I'm bringing thunder and rain. I'm a hurricane if you get in my way. I'm a hurricane, always on top of my game. I'm a hurricane, I'm trying to get in my way. Hurricane, I'm bringing thunder and rain. I'm a hurricane if you get in my way. I'm a hurricane, always on top of my game. I'm a hurricane, I'm trying to get in my way. I'm a hurricane, I'm bringing thunder and rain. I'm a hurricane if you get in my way. I'm a hurricane, always on top of my game. I'm a hurricane, I'm trying to get in my way. Hurricane, I'm bringing thunder and rain. I'm a hurricane if you get in my way. I'm a hurricane, always on top of my game. I'm a hurricane, I'm trying to get in my way.
Don't fucking scream at me. Where's you the money? Fuck you. Look at you with your fucking 48% body fat.
Sometimes when I have a guest on, I don't know how to follow up. Like, how do I follow a story like that? I just don't know. I'm just like completely lost, completely done. But I guess I'll have to. So yesterday, like I was saying, crazy ass storm blew through San Antonio. There's somebody in the live chat that can attest to that. It was just fucking bananas, completely nuts. But I did have 3 stories for yesterday. I might only do 2 because I know some of you, your significant others are snoring and you're getting jelly about it. That's all I'm saying. But by the way, if you want to check out Mr. Ionia's story, the link is in the description to the YouTube. You can go in there and check it out. You can go on Discord and join and actually talk to him. He'll tell you the story. He'll go through it because he really believes this was some kind of Tesla experiment. But let's get on to the news, which is a day fucking late. We all were there yesterday, and it's funny that the one event everyone was waiting for yesterday was canceled, derailed by Big Bertha. And I feel like Big Bertha came to San Antonio and canceled the podcast too. I'm talking about SpaceX Demo 2 did not go anywhere. Those of you who listen to the podcast already know this. You know that they waited up to 17 minutes before it was go time and said, shit. God damn it. God damn. Elon, we got to pull it, Elon. And, you know, they kept on doing close-ups of Elon while he was up there, and he looked so damn serious. He was concerned. No fucks are given. If you've lived in Florida, you know, if the clouds look that bad, and there is a tropical storm off the coast, you're not shooting shit up into the sky. You're pretty much done. Women and children, get the fuck out the water. It's going to go down. No astronaut, no matter what kind of a penis-looking rocket they're sitting on, they're not going to go anywhere. They're stuck like Chuck. And it's crazy that those guys had to sit in there for 3 fucking hours. That is just bananas. Like, I could just see, I couldn't do it. I couldn't sit there for 3 hours just looking at those fancy screens from SpaceX, which, by the way, the inside of that Crew Dragon, it is so different. Such a complete different approach to capsule travel, I guess. I could imagine if these guys got into the Russian stuff, what kind of crazy shit that looked like. Probably no one will ever go back to any of those Russian capsules ever again. I'm telling you, SpaceX is making some big bucks. Now the thing is that there's gonna be another attempt. Yeah, it sounded like a New Yorker again. It's gonna be another attempt. There's gonna be another attempt, and it will happen on Saturday, 3:22 p.m. Eastern Time. But what really got me about this article that I was looking at was not the fact that they canceled this bitch because of a damn storm. Not the fact that the VP was there and old Trumpy was flying in on Air Force One. I was like, damn. These guys are prime targets now. They're going to blow up NASA. They're going to take out the president, the vice president, and they're going to leave us what? Anyone leading the country. Nothing to do with that. It wasn't the fact that they rode in on that Tesla. Nope. And by the way, that thing was followed by an armored vehicle. That was pretty cool. Had nothing to do with that. What really got to me was the fact that the weather conditions for Saturday were actually, how could I say, being monitored by Space Force. What in the flying fuck, Jim? What is going on? How is it that they're the ones who are monitoring this? This might be a commercial flight, but geez Louise, there is nothing but military and government connections all over this. I mean, they're really on it. It is crazy. Now, right now, from the last thing that I saw, it appears that it's no longer a 60%. It looks like it went back down to 50-50, but it could change. Hell, it's supposed to be all hell break loose over here tonight, and it didn't happen. So there you go. So yeah, Space Force is keeping an eye on this. Elon's got to be shitting bricks. Totally. He's got to get this thing to go up in the name of all that is Musk, okay, whatever his baby's name is, which I saw an article that they're going to be changing the name to a normal name. I don't know. It makes no sense to me. But that's what it is next Saturday. And I think after that, somebody mentioned on Discord, it'll be Sunday if they can't get it up on Saturday. But we'll see what happens. I don't know. My fingers are crossed. I hope he does it. Not because he's going to make a gajillion bunch of dollars. Not because he's going to hit the bank again, make another $5 billion off of this. But because those two guys, those two Mike Hughes. Not Mike Hughes. Is it Matt Hughes? I don't know. He's dead now. You know, they're two rocket jockeys that are strapped to the damn rocket. That's the reason why I think it needs to happen and be over and done with. And what killed me was that I was sitting there and, you know, it was running in the background all the build-up on the Discovery Channel to this event. And all I kept on seeing is Falcon 9 rockets blowing up, and the very last incident that really put SpaceX behind was when that last Crew Dragon capsule blew up on the testing pad. I mean, it's stuff like that makes you wish you weren't an astronaut. Could you imagine if those guys were sitting in there on those fancy screens inside the Crew Dragon seeing that shit? Abandoned ship. I'd jump the fuck out, for real. It is freaking hilarious what's going on with this NASA and all these commercial companies and the deals they're making and brokering, and how really there's going to be a part of SpaceX that's going to be completely dedicated to the military. And not just SpaceX, Starlink also. There's a contract that went out. Military taking up some of that data through Starlink. It's just crazy. And I just wonder how this is going to pan out, especially if they get this contract. We'll see what else is going to happen. Now, I do have another article in here about another company who's trying to get into a low orbit space. And we actually talked about this last week. Well, it didn't fare too well for them either. But there's a reason why they're doing what they're doing, which to me, until I read this article, it made no damn sense to me. But it's all about the money. It's all about the Benjamins, baby. Okay, we're about to see that coming up right now. So last week we talked about Virgin Atlantic. Well, actually, it's what was it? Virgin Galaxy, Virgin Orbit. Fuck, they should make up the damn mind what the fuck the name of this thing is. Virgin Orbit's first test launch fails to reach orbit. You need to change your name. You do. You can't even reach orbit. What's wrong with you? You're like Boeing. Losers. Plain and simple. You guys are losers. But actually, they're not, because in that article that we talked about last week about their little test, which happened this past Monday, they kind of said, yeah, we're really doing it for the data. That's what we're doing, just for the data. No. You don't shoot off a rocket just for fucking data. You want that thing to get to where it needs to go. That's why it's a rocket, right? I mean, come on. Stop screwing with us. So something went wrong. So they tried to shoot off the Launcher 1 rocket. It's separated from the plane, which we know It's, what was the name of that thing? It's had a nice little Cosmic Girl. So the rocket came out of Cosmic Girl. Kind of makes you wonder, what kind of girl is this? But Richard Branson said, admittedly, that we were just looking to figure out what's going on with this rocket, what can it do, what it won't do, and what state is it in. So it turns out that after they dropped the rocket from the 747 Cosmic Girl, the rocket had a failure. So it did not go into orbit. It really didn't do anything worthwhile other than getting some data. For the longest time, when I look at, companies like Boeing, and you look at SpaceX, and then you look at Richard Branson's group, this Virgin group, and you're thinking, so you're dropping another penis-shaped rocket from a Cosmic Girl into the sky, and it's supposed to go into low orbit. Whoop-de-doo. Who gives two flying fucks? That makes no sense to me. It's like you're going 3 steps backwards. We're trying to keep up with the guys that are leading the future. What the hell is going on? It never made sense to me until this article. There's a quote here from one of their reps. We've confirmed a clean release from the aircraft, quote-unquote, Cosmic Girl. However, the mission terminated shortly into the flight. Cosmic Girl and our flight crew are safe and returning to base. There was no space VD with Cosmic Girl. She's clean. But here's what the plan is. And this is where I am just like completely shocked. The reason why Virgin Orbit, Atlantic, Virgin Group, whatever the fuck kind of Virgin this is, the reason why they're doing this is because, number one, they save on rocket fuel. But number two, what they are marketing, the Cosmic Girl and the Launcher One, is for payloads of small satellites. Small satellites that they can shoot up from the 747 and right into low orbit. The first thing that comes to mind is these CubeSats. Very popular now. Very affordable, satellite-wise. I mean, shit. Can you imagine what you pay for a communication satellite versus like a CubeSat? I mean, fuck, we can call Igor at your belly and his Guardians and find out how much they paid for their little CubeSat. But these things are affordable. Like, I looked them up probably about 4 or 5 years ago. We're talking about $50K, maybe $100K for everything. All the instruments and everything, if you want a really nice one. $100K including the launch. This is what they are aiming towards. It's not to put fuckers in it, not to put people or animals in it or anything like that. They don't have a new monkey they want to put in there into low orbit. No, it's a commercial use. What Richard Branson and the crew are trying to do is cash in on these small satellites, and it's ingenious. No wonder you don't need a big ass fucking rocket. You stick it on a damn plane. According to them, what really makes this really enticing is the fact that they can take this 747, good old Cosmic Girl, and the Launcher One rocket and fly it from anywhere. To me, that means that basically if I have a CubeSat, Richard Branson and the crew are going to bring the Cosmic Girl to me in my country so they can facilitate shooting my small satellite into space. As opposed to being stuck in Russia or being stuck at the Cape or South Texas or California, they will come to me to get my satellite in space. That is ingenious. It really does make sense to me now. Before I was thinking, what the fuck? What is wrong with you? Richard, you were so cool. You were a rebel. You used to make people cringe at the insurance company. But now I see the genius in what Virgin Orbit is trying to do for the Virgin Group, Richard Branson, and why this all kind of makes sense now. It is fantastic, and I'm sure they're going to use this money to keep the rest of the Virgin Company afloat. You know, thanks to COVID-19, ain't nobody fucking flying these days. But space race is here. To be honest, I just want to know. I want to see a price comparison between Virgin Orbit and SpaceX. That's what I want to see. Boeing, what you got? Let's see what you got. It's just incredible that it really takes some of these articles where people actually look into and get answers to let you know why things are so fucking weird. Because I never would have thought that was the reason behind their design for this Cosmic Girl and Launcher 1. It's ingenious, to be honest. That's a lot of money. So if you guys in the chat box want to put some money together and get our own Cosmic Girl, maybe we can do that. But she's going to have some real balls on her, I'm sure. Only because that's just the way it is. That's how we roll. That is just a crazy story. The link is in the description as well as the link to the first story. The last story really has to do with weapons in space, believe it or not. The many different companies and the different types of weapons in space. We'll go over that briefly in just a sec. But in the meantime, I got one more song for you. Check this out. That transitional effect is it's crazy. It reminds me like the old UFO movies from back in the day. it's really nostalgic, I guess you could say. This next story, I'm really not going to go too far into it because it's something you have to get into. Not a lot of people give two fucks about weapons in space. Not a lot of people can even imagine that such a thing is possible. But there is someone who put together a paper examining the situation that's going on in space right now. Every Tom, Dick, Harry, from the United States to the Middle East to Asia, is pretty much going after some space real estate. Not just from a commercial point of view, but also from a military perspective. They want to arm space. There is more than just a regular old space race. It's not just about stopping at the moon or Mars. It's about weaponizing it. Listen, everybody thinks, some badass technology advanced company is up there to just take over space, so they need to defend themselves. This is where I wish I had the China effect, but I didn't put it in there. China, right? They don't want the big ass toupee hair president trying to, take over everything. But that's the way it is. But China is not the only one. There are countries right now, specifically Japan, France, South Korea, and of course the U.S., who are expanding the militarization of space. We know this from the U.S. You guys know it. You see it in the news all the time. Now, we might think that it was just announced last year. Space Force is just here. But it's been like this for some time. All the other countries are following suit. You can't be the only rubber dicker sitting on the planet not having a plan of attack in case the shit goes down in space. So what do? You got to do like the Joneses. You got to put your weapons in space. The article, what it's talking about is that there really isn't, number one, a consensus as to what is a weapon in space. Are you serious? I don't understand why everything has to be fucking written down, but this is what the article is saying. There are two treaties. One is the Partial Test Ban Treaty. The other is the Outer Space Treaty, and they place limits on weapons in space. So you're thinking, fuck, well, Moonraker, what the fuck are you talking about? You just said that there is nothing. No, the problem is that these treaties do not identify what is a weapon in space. So you could be up there dropping all kind of shit, and unless in a conventional way you've identified it as a weapon, then people can get away with all kind of things from space. Now, the fear is not just dropping things onto the planet, but the fear is also using such weapons against other equipment, satellites, for instance. Shooting projectiles, blowing them up, putting a bunch of things in their way in order to destroy them. The article really goes into that this is going to be a problem really soon, especially with the way many militaries across the globe are rushing to get things in space and kind of get their foothold on it. I don't know how the fuck they're going to do it. If anyone's ever seen a picture of all the junk that is in space right now around the planet, fuck, you already got a foothold. Get the fuck off the planet and go to Mars or go to the moon and put your foothold over there or stick it up your candy ass, because there's nothing left up there. This is why Igor Shabeli exists today, because of rubber dickers like this. This is what the article is about, and it goes over specifically the categories of weapons that you could see named at one point, which one is the Earth to Space Kinetic Weapon, which is a physical system. Basically somebody from the planet, like Kim Jong-un, shooting a rocket. And one time that he does shoot it, it actually goes into space and blows up a fucking satellite. Because most of the time the shit don't work. But that's just my example. You take it for what it is. The other one is the Earth to Space Non-Kinetic, meaning it's basically like shooting fucking freaking microwaves into space, using lasers to take out satellites or other equipment, or maybe some kind of a jamming device for satellites. The third one is space to space kinetic. You guys can figure that out. Just think about it. Maybe the Starlink satellites came, armed with not only a sun visor, but also a little missile that could shoot off. Could you imagine that shit? That's like that 007 nonsense. Space to space, non-kinetic, of course, jamming or microwaves, lasers from one satellite to another. The worst ones are the ones that really freak me out as a person. Space to Earth kinetic weapons. Space to Earth non-kinetic weapons. These are weapons that are shot from low orbit to the people on the planet. Those are the ones. Listen, I don't give two fucks if Kim Jong-un shoots a fucking laser or a missile at a satellite that, some other country owns. Who the fuck cares? It is these weapons that are space to Earth that are the most concerning for me and should be for most people. Those are the ones that are dangerous, and the fact that there is no treaties that specifically call out these weapons is pretty fucking sad and scary at the same time. The article is in the description. You guys should check it out. There is a link to the paper and what this person was basically going over. I know, I get it. It's not UFO alien stuff. I get it. But it is things that you should concern yourself about because the space race is here. These things are coming. They've been here. The spy plane has been in space for years. What the fuck you think it's doing? No, it's not just logging miles for the fuck's sake just because it wants to. It's testing. It's weaponizing. It's testing the future of weaponization of space and military advances. It's not up there to take pretty pictures of the planet. I guarantee you. I want to thank TriMag again for coming on here. He's actually right now on Discord. You can go in there and chat with him if you want to. Ask him some more questions. He's a young kid. He had a young experience at a young age. There's a lot of things he's going through and trying to explain it. As you know, and I've said this before, even someone like Travis Walton, in his old age, still can't really grasp his experience. And I'm sure it's going to be a lot of more of that inner conversation and research before TriMag really gets a grasp of what happened to him. So if you're on Discord, check it out. Talk to him. Share some stories of your own if you're an experiencer. I thank you guys for listening. The Dark Horde will be tomorrow. However, it'll be pre-recorded because the Moonraker is going on vacay. And I'm sure I will do my best to make it a show you won't forget, even though I won't be live talking about it. But I'll be here nonetheless, probably hanging out in the live chat box with the rest of the guys. I thank you all. Have a good evening. Stay away from the grapefruit size hail because, fuck, for the record, that bitch hurts.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you. For the record, lab on me going all the way. For the record, ain't trying to link, no time to waste. For the record, for the record, yeah. For the record, yeah. For the record, yeah. For the record, for the record, yeah. For the record. Been a little too nice to y'all. Now I gotta up price for y'all. Snake eyes on dice for y'all. Shoulders on ice for y'all. Frozen. H6 all the hate. I won't get involved today. Got lost in the ballin' age. I'm flipping the bars. I'm flipping the. On record, off record. I still count wins when they doubt it. On record, off record. I let them take advantage. I was wildin'. On record, off record deals. Tell them talk to Colin for the quote. On record, off record. I still want the act, not the ghost. Running through it with the young influence. Adolescent presence. I'm succumbing to it. I've been giving yeses when I shouldn't do it. I complete ejected with the loser. And I'm barely moving, but I'm still gon' boost them. I can't work on winnings when I know you're losing. So I work the winners and they throw the deuces. Guess I have to pivot, shooting the bazookas for the facts. I need racks, paper cash, fuck a tax. That's a joke, tell them laugh. Uncle Sam, fuck out the bag. Brody plot, we'll get a whack. Contract, give me the max. I got lab on my back. You ain't that, then it's raps. Whoa. For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you. For the record, lab on me going all the way. For the record, ain't trying to link, no time to waste. For the record, For the record, yeah. For the record.